In June 1996, Movie Park introduced Lethal Weapon Pursuit, a custom INTAMIN multi-inversion coaster that at the time was the peak of roller coaster engineering. Each side was 2,000 feet long and over a ride duration of 1 minute 20 seconds navigated twists, turns and 2 inversions. The Duelling coaster was a hit, maintaining long lines and popularity until 2004, when the park came under new ownership and all the Lethal Weapon references were removed. The ride then became Cop Car Chase, and as the theming decayed, the experience became a shadow of its former self. The ride then fell into disrepair due to rising maintenance costs, and over the next 2 years the ride became known for its rough riding experience and typically only having one side operational. In 2006, the ride was torn down, never to be seen again. Until now. Hello. This view looks quite different, doesn't it? I'm so happy with this coaster. Welcome to episode 3 of Deadwood Dale, and in this episode we are doing the Duelling INTAMIN family thrill kind of coaster thing. This coaster, if you hadn't have already guessed, is an exact replica of Cop Car Chase or Lethal Weapon Pursuit. It was known by 2 names at the previous movie park in Germany when it was owned by Six Flags, I think. I think the coaster was installed before then, but I think Six Flags were the ones that retired it when the park came under ownership from them, which is such a shame because as you can see, this coaster is fantastic. I just got an absolute obsession with it when I found out about it. You know me and abandoned things, I just became completely obsessed. And when I found out that the coaster had such a cool history and it got scrapped and everything when Six Flags took over the park, I just really wanted to do something like it. And the more and more I thought about it, I was like, why doesn't our park just exist in a universe where when Six Flags bought the park, they were like, right, this coaster needs to go. And then my park was like, how about we just buy it? It could have been sat in storage for a few years, judging by the timeline of a couple of the other more modern attractions in this park. But yeah, Cop Car Chase, Lethal Weapon Pursuit, it lives on. As far as I know, this is the most detailed and accurate recreation of this ride in Planet Coaster. I haven't seen any other ones at all like it. I had a quick look on the workshop and there was a couple that were semi-realistic recreations, but nothing on this accuracy and with the custom supports and everything. I've studied this so much, looked at all of the photos that were available to me to study the ride to make sure it's exactly accurate. And as far as I can tell, it is. And you can probably also notice that I've replaced both of the chain lifts with launches. Now, I don't know whether these would actually be LSM, like you could have Zamperla who've come in and retrofitted the ride, given new trains and launches and stuff, or it could be tyre launches, sort of how INTAMIN do it. It could be a range of different things, but obviously we can't really have tyre launches in the game, so I've put the LSM launches on. But I'm just so happy with this. So that's basically what I mean about the ride being saved and refurbished. It could be Zamperla who've come along. Obviously they've done a couple of refurbishments now. They've done the Center Fiazzo one that used to be at that park in Italy, and then they've done obviously Top Thrill 2. But yeah, it's been refurbished, fully restored to beyond its former glory really, because it's got the launches now and these new trains, and yeah, I'm just completely in love with this ride. It became such a passion project to get it done. Originally it wasn't even for this park, I just started building it and then I came up with the idea for Deadwood Dale. I think they called it Western Adventure. That's the wrong park. That was quite a few parks ago. My third park I think that one was. But yeah, I came up with the idea for Deadwood Dale, I think maybe, I don't know, it might even be I think it was quite a while ago. And then shortly afterwards started building this coaster, and it just felt like it naturally fit into this park. And the more I started to add theming to it and stuff and come up with ideas, it's just a perfect fit. This is going to be like an industrial area. There's going to be like loads of theming that you fly around. I've added like a bit of theming here just to kind of give you an example of the style I'm sort of going for. There's going to be a cool head chopper there as you come down, sort of a bit like so. This inversion as well used to be inside, so I'm not going to have this outside, but I am aiming to have a couple of the parts of the coaster enclosed, sort of like fly-through elements and stuff. We'll go over what's actually going on over here. So you approach the ride area. Because of the terrain as well, it's an absolute nightmare the way this works, but obviously limitations lead to creativity in a way, so that's how this has all come about and looks so interesting. I positioned it over this existing water kind of spout as well that we had in the park, which I thought was quite cool. Just kind of gives a nice feature as the final two inversions. But anyway, you approach the ride underneath these supports here, because in the one in Movie Park Germany you approach it from the other side, but obviously I can't do that because we're on the park boundary now. So you approach it down here, you come under here. I've got some netting under there as well. I might add some underneath some of the other parts of the ride. And then because of the terrain change, once I started to put in the queue and the paths and how it worked and everything, I actually realised that this entire area wasn't wheelchair accessible. So I've added in a lift here that brings you up to this level, and then because the platform of the station is up some stairs as well, I might add a lift around here where the cursor is, or like a path that maybe takes you down here and a lift somewhere, obviously because this all needs to be wheelchair accessible. As for the queue, it kind of winds around up here. Planko pathing problems as usual, but I managed to get it to work where you've got the two queues going around. Ideally in real life you'd probably have this as one queue that splits off towards the end, but don't have the choice of that in Planet Coaster, so we've got two queues. And then you come actually into the station from down the sides at the top. Beams everywhere and stuff. I've gone for the two textures of this rough brick and then the industrial brick at the bottom. Again, still trying to keep it quite western, but obviously this is going to be different themed areas within this whole western park, so it needs to stray a bit from the theme at some point. You've got your lockers here, well not really lockers, more of a shelf. Again, because of the way that this station works, there wasn't really the opportunity to have a baggage hold because of how much area the queue takes up before you get near the station building. Like, ideally you want the baggage hold just before you get on the ride, so you want it around here, but then how do you get back up to this part to collect your bag? So I figured the best solution would just be to have a shelf here, sort of like how Rita and Stealth work at Thorpe Park and Alton Towers. You put your bags in there. When you come off the ride, this is the exit here, you can come around the corner, get them, and then go back down the stairs. I'm using this nice TMTK railing. I really like this. I'm going to use it all over this area and probably put like some scenery piece in the middle. I've hidden the operators' cabins as well, like the in-game ones, and then I've gone for like a dual center one that would operate both, similar to how Galactica and most kind of coasters that have a two-part station work. So that's how that's going to work. And then you come forward into this show building here where there's going to be like different theming bits going on, maybe something at the end for like countdown, or I don't know, something going on. And then I'll go through the layout now, where you launch up the lift hill to start off with. Pretty decent speed, but obviously remember this is a family thrill coaster. I don't know whether it was originally intended to be when the ride opened, but yeah, you go around this turn here. This one has an upwards and downwards helix and stuff. Then they meet up to do an airtime hill, go under that head chopper and do the loop, and they both rise up into these higher up elements here over the main plaza, dive down, speed toward each other, then twist back around again. They meet up to go up to the second launch, and that brings you down into this turnaround here where they both kind of snake back down to the ground, do a little airtime kind of speed hill, and then your final inversion, both of them together. That's so cool. And then they do a turn into the brakes. I'm so happy with the way this coaster turned out. It's exactly how the real life one would have worked. It's sad that we haven't got it anymore. I'd love to go on it, and it's exactly custom supported the way that one was as well. Obviously I've made a couple of modifications to get the path to work. This would be easy because some of the supports might have been damaged in transit or something, or they could have just been completely replaced, a lot like most of the track of Top Thrill 2 has and stuff. And then quite a few of the supports for the INTAMIN, what's it called, the hydraulic launch one that used to be at that park in Italy, Centro Fiat. Quite a lot of that had like supports and the station replaced and stuff. So that was how this would have worked. The real life one had like quite a long station where I think it had an onload and offload. Can't do that in Planet Coaster 1 at least, maybe Planet Coaster 2, that would be amazing. But as I've got it at the moment, this would be the full length of the station that you'd had before, but I've got it all at the back now, so you load and unload here and then have a pre-show section there. Pretty cool. I'm so happy with this coaster though. Like I said, it just turned into such a passion project, and now that it's actually done and complete looking is so cool. I'm really, really happy with it. At the moment, I think it's running, yeah, it's running 3 trains either side, so it's got pretty decent throughput. But yeah, I'm just loving it. I love the way it actually sits on the sightline as well, because it's quite nestled at the back of the park here. You get great views of it from like a distance. So say if we went down here, you can just see it kind of on this elevated part of the park, which is really nice. As you're walking past it, you can just see it zooming around as well. The 2 trains flying after each other. And that was one thing I said in my dueling coasters competition as well. I love it when dueling coasters have trains that follow each other throughout pretty much all of the layout. And that's exactly what these two do. Like, they have elements there where they're charging at each other, but for the most of the time, they're right next to each other flying around, so you get great interaction between the 2 trains. And I love how it just sits up here on this like kind of raised pad at the back of the park as well. Most of this terrain was already here. I've just flattened out quite a bit of it. Obviously, to do that, I've started to put in a retaining wall, as it would need that so that you don't get like a landslide or anything. That wouldn't be ideal. And then you've got this existing river that we had as well, that I'm going to put a bridge across so you can actually access this area. It's going to have quite a small plaza, but you would only really go down there if you get into the coaster anyway. As for the rest of the themed area, I'm going to continue this path going down here. We have a Gerstlauer, is it Skyfly, what they're called? One of those where you can sit and spin and stuff. I thought they could kind of fit with the industrial theme, so that's what I've gone for there. Obviously it's not going to be this colour, it's probably going to be like quite a dark rusty brown and have these maybe highlighted the same colour as the trains. That'd be quite cool. And then I'm going to have this path come around here. There's a bit of an elevation change where the queue will be for this ride, and I am kind of wanting maybe a restaurant, or at least like, I don't know, a food building at some point during this. I'm not going to take up any of this land because this land is going to be used for whatever this building is. And obviously I have to be conscious about this building's views on the rest of the park, which at the moment this is quite nice, but you want to hide most of the maintenance area, so I might put some trees and stuff in here. And then this part's going to be all landscaped for what this building is. So yeah, I don't know where that food unit's going to go just yet, or whether it even will exist. It could go here. Although I was kind of toying with the idea of having like quite a long thin building running along here, where it would maybe have like a row of tables in front of it that are undercover, and then the rest of the tables are kind of dotted around here, and it's like quite a long thin building, but because of how low down it is, you still get views of the ride behind it, and maybe you could have like a seating area here that you get nice views of this section of the coaster racing past. Don't know yet, you'll find out how that goes later in the episode, but yeah. What an amazing first coasters, shall I say, because there's 2 of them to start off Deadwood Dale with. This is the quality of the coasters that are going to be in this park, and they will only be getting more thrilling and more extreme as the series goes on. Can't wait to get into it. See you in update 2. Well, this view's changed quite a bit. I am absolutely loving the process of making this coaster. I'm having such a good time. Like, I think it honestly is just the elevation change that makes all the difference. With the lower part here, you come up that ramp to this kind of pad in front of the coaster itself up on another level again. And then once you're on the actual coaster as well, like at these high up parts, you feel quite high compared to the rest of the park. Like, say if we stand up here, you get a pretty good view across the rest of the park. I'm absolutely loving this, but the coaster just feels like it belongs there. Like, it's a nice, like, sightline ride. You can see it from quite a lot of different places around the park, and it sits perfectly. I cannot wait to add even more theme into this, but I'll walk you through what I've done so far. We'll start off down here. So I've put in all this retaining wall now. I think I mentioned that in the first update. This is going to have some foliage over it and stuff to make it kind of blend in. Down here I've added these 2 food units. We've got these names aren't final. We've got Flavor Fuel and Pizza Factory. I've tried to like industrialize the names about them. Yeah, that might not stay. I've added the Don't Die fencing around most of this ride area, so I'm loving the way that this looks from down on like a path level. This has some benches underneath, so it's going to be like a one long bench around it that guests can actually sit on, which I thought was quite cool. I love this view here as you can see the coaster going past. I've like tilted the Don't Die fencing, used a different version of it, so obviously it's still just as safe, but it means you can get that much closer to the coaster, which is really cool. I just love seeing it fly around overhead, it's amazing. Actually, we'll watch it come past this part because I really like this view here. It's a nice area to like look at the ride from this food spot. It goes into that airtime hill, and then the inversions over there, which I'll get to in a minute. I've added more theming around this area. The ride area now has a soundtrack too, which is pretty cool. Oh, I'm in the floor. So I've added all this theming around this like raised pad and stuff. It's just general like industrial junk stuff for this part of the the ride. Obviously this is the area around the main station building, which is probably like the main industrial building factory sort of thing, so you just have some junk around this. This area here looks out across the coaster. I love this view. As you can see, the two final elements on the ride, the inversions. This obviously water feature was here before, but I've added like stuff to it to make it just that bit more special as the final element for the ride, but I love the way that that looks. Obviously here we have the entrance to the coaster. Got some don't die fencing up along with these high walls. There's like retaining walls as well. This will be where the sign will go, which I'll reveal the name for the coaster at the end of this episode. I love the way this like flies over the path here. That's so cool. Come down under this entrance where we have the netting above us so that no loose articles can fall on any people coming into the ride area. I think I mentioned this in the first update, I can't remember, but this is going to be completely accessible like the rest of the park. All parks, in my opinion, should be completely accessible that you're building in this game. It just makes them that much more realistic and inclusive for everyone. So I've put in a lift here. There'll be lifts for wherever they're needed around the park as well. You can take the stairs up this side, which gives you probably my favourite view of the coaster. Now, definitely my favourite view of the coaster. I'll get to that in a second, but you can see from here you've got great views of this turnaround section. That one kind of like bursts to the station, that one goes over the entrance. Both flying towards each other and work their way back over to the second launch over there. This is where the top of that lift comes out, that connects you to the other side of the station. And then this is like the closer side of the station. This is my favourite view here. Seeing the coasters fly over that final inversion, that's so cool. And then this is the station building for how much I've done so far. Quite happy with how this looks at the minute, but I've got a lot more to do, as you'll see. I'll do a little bit of an aerial view at the end. But this will be where the two queues start, so the signs will go there for the name of like each side. And then the actual queue itself, I've started to do quite a lot of it. It's all like raised on platforms. I wanted this to look really industrial. This will be a lot more busy towards the like end of this episode as I add more stuff during the updates. You can come around here, then the queue splits off, so you've got the two staircases that go up. Like I said earlier, the higher you get on this, the better views you get of the ride, and we are pretty high up here as well, so you get great views all across the park, which is lovely. Look, and the coasters go underneath, which is where the maintenance bay and area is. Over this way, you can see I've started to put in this top of the building for the queue. Again, great views from up here. I love looking out over this area. I've never actually been up here in Tejikam. Quite happy with the way this is looking. So I've just got some dividers, like just general clutter themed in stuff that's like blocking out the different sections of this winding queue. Just give it a bit of visual interest, make it not boring. But obviously you've got the coaster to look at as you're going around, so I think it'll be quite hard to get boring watching this. I love that element. So once you've finished with this section of queue, it kind of splits off to go either side of the stations. This is what the station is currently looking like. I've blocked in the existing control boxes so I can have like a custom one where both ride operators will sit next to each other, because obviously the idea with this coaster is that they both dispatch at the same time. And then you come down here, there's kind of like repairs going on almost. I want this station to feel like very, like it, oh, I'm on the wall, like it used to be. Like really well used, and now it's not the most looked after. It's kind of like disrepair and stuff, so that's what I'm going for with this. There's like all sorts of different textures going on with like wood and stone and metal. This will be where you bring your loose articles. I think I mentioned in the first update that I was going to add like lockers in, but I didn't really see how that could work, so I've added these so you can access that from, like, you put your bags in there and then collect them at the end from that side. I know it's not as secure as having lockers, but this could be seen as maybe one of an older ride. So like the station wasn't really designed for it, and the way that I've positioned it on this hill, the queue doesn't really allow for it either. Because there's nothing more I hate on rides where, like the Incredible Hulk at Islands of Adventure is a great example, where your loose articles are put in lockers right at the start of the queue. So if it's a 2-hour queue, and when you're doing it, because I remember I did single rider a few times, when it's a 2-hour queue and you're on your own, it gets really boring without your phone. So yeah, that's what I wanted to do on this. It's you can keep all your stuff right until you're bored, and then when you do board, you've got this station. So obviously you board from either side. That walkway takes you down to there, and then the coaster dispatches there. I've got the little booths for each of the ride assistants there as well, and then the two coasters that go off that way. Now for exiting, obviously this red side you just exit down there. For the blue side you exit down this way, and you have a path that goes underneath the launch sections. I might not fill this in, I don't know, I could have like a track section that's visible, that could be quite cool. And then you come down under here and you're met with this view with the lift as well. Still need to work out a way for guests in wheelchairs to actually be able to get up this park, because obviously they wouldn't go around the whole queue because it's just all stairs. You need to have some way of them getting onto this ride platform. Like, realistically, if they wanted to get onto the other side of the coaster and I couldn't put a lift around there for whatever reason, they could actually, I can't remember what coaster does this, but they put like you know, like a drawbridge almost, where there's like some sort of panel that's like lifted into here. Like, you could probably just fold it down, or like when you see buses and they have like a deployable ramp, you could put like a ramp across the track so that the person in the wheelchair could get to the other side. So obviously they'd be able to get onto this side if there was a lift here, and then get onto that side if they needed to. So I might just put a lift in on the one side. I know it's not ideal, but this area doesn't particularly lend itself too well to having, like, I don't know, just a bit too much going on, because it's already a very cramped space, so I need to see how that will work. Another idea I did think of was that like this path could continue down to link up under here, and then you could have the lift that comes up in the centre somewhere, maybe over here. That could potentially be the better way of doing it. You'll have to wait and see how I fix that. But yeah, I'm loving the whole ride area, it's fantastic. I am going to put like scenery pieces like this throughout the ride so that you can like interact with them as the coaster's going around. Because there's nothing more that annoys me in theme parks when they go through all the effort to like theme in the station or something. Like Conda's a great example of this. Like the station and the queue line's fantastic, and the whole like plaza before you get into the station building's brilliant. But on the ride, it's just a field, and I don't want that. I don't want that with this ride. I want this ride to be special and have theming like throughout the actual experience. I know it's obviously dueling, so it's that little bit more special, but I just wanted to make it really good. And then this here is a flat ride as well. Next episode, I think, will be this flat ride, maybe like a larger indoor restaurant, I think, for this part of the park. And then just a couple more like scenery pieces to really bring this area together. So I'm not going to finish it in this episode. This will be like part one of this whole industrial land, which will probably take up like about everything on my screen now. So that's a hint of what is to come, which is a lot, because this area is far from finished. But this is only update 2. I'll get back to you in update 3 when hopefully it's looking a lot more exciting and immersive. Feels kind of wild saying this, but welcome to my favourite thing I've ever made in Planet Coaster. There it is. Yeah, I am completely in love with this creation. I felt like it's probably one of the more personal things I've ever built, purely on a sort of like the scale of which I've become invested in the history of this ride. It's a little bit ridiculous. I've researched so much about it, watched so much about it. I just can't stop looking at it. And yeah, I'm really happy with how I recreated it. It's been quite a sensitive recreation in terms of the amount of analysing I've put into making sure the supports are accurate, the profile's accurate and everything. But yeah, and we've got guests in the park now too, which is pretty cool. Yeah, trying to make the park feel a bit more alive and vibrant, and I wanted to see how the guests interacted with the park, so that's why they're in it. But yeah, I'm liking the way how much like alive this feels now. I've opened up the car ride as well to kind of eat some of the guests, which actually quite funnily has 100% scenery rating, even though there's nothing around it, just because of all the stuff over here, which is kind of funny. But yeah, I'm really happy with how Deadwood Dale's going. I was a little bit concerned at the start, don't get me wrong, because when Planet Coaster got announced, oh, that view. When Planet Coaster 2 got announced, I was like, how am I going to finish this? But with the scale that I'm building at now and the rate that it's going at, and that view, I'm so happy with how this is going. And so many people were commenting what this building was. I was so surprised. I thought it was pretty obvious. So I put you a sign up. It's a hotel. I thought that would be pretty obvious. But yeah, you'll see when that comes later in the park series. Obviously this area isn't finished, just bear this in mind. This is going to be a two-parter for this area. The coaster and the area around it, I'd say, is 95% done. The area around that as a whole, like that food place there and the flat ride and a couple of bits in the background, they will be done next episode. I'll explain what I'm doing next episode at the end of this update, but just kind of all this stuff. But it's going to be themed in the same area and theme, so it's going to be quite interesting to see how that all works, and obviously ties in with the hotel and the rest of the park too. But anyway, onto this coaster. That is why you are all here. I'm in love with this. Just look at it. I'm so happy with it. Not trying to toot my own horn, but I am. I'm so happy with this. It's been a complete labour of love making this coaster. I just love the way it sits quite neatly at the back of the park. For me, it's because it's raised on this pad that it really helps, and you get little moments like that, and like this here, how like enclosed it is. I just love it. But this is the name I've chosen for the ride. Thank you so much for choosing this name. I'm sure it is a great one. As usual, I'll ask you to comment below later on in the series for more ride names, but thank you so much for that one. I hope you like it as much as I did, which is why I chose it. But I'm just loving the whole way this front of the coaster looks. It's very dramatic how there's like this quite enclosed, claustrophobic and intimate space as you approach this coaster. You can see it whizzing around over the top of you. It's so cool. Got the netting as well, which I might go and add a few more bits of netting in the future. Got the accessible wheelchair lift, very important. This whole park will be wheelchair accessible. Another one there to get up to the station platform, and then you have the station building itself. This took forever, but I'm so happy with it. Yeah, all the details and stuff. The actual, like, that second part of the station building was slightly, like, crooked compared to the main building, because I didn't want them to be at the same angle, because then it would feel like one long building. So getting the paths to align with each other with that would have been slightly not aligned with the rest of the building. Hello. It took ages, but I just love the views that you get from this ride from everywhere, and all the detail in the station and everything. I'm so happy with it. Just really happy with it. I didn't expect it to turn out like this. I was quite worried about how it would turn out, but no, I'm happy with it, and that's my favourite view of the ride there. It's completely unintentionally ended up so much like the Mosasaurus roll in Velocicoaster's queue, how you go right past it. But like here, when you're waiting in the queue and getting on the ride, you just see that final element there. And it coincidentally lined up perfectly above that natural water source that we had in the park starting file as well. It just kind of lined up there with where I wanted to place the coaster. I thought I'll make a feature out of it. It'd be like a much bigger drop than the original ride had underneath, which I thought was quite cool. But yeah, I'm so happy with this. But I just can't stop watching this one element. I love it. It would be probably the most like photogenic and iconic moment of the ride. And I'm glad that we've got guests in the park as well now, because you can see how they're interacting with it. They're going straight back around for another ride. Don't blame them. I'd probably be doing the same. It is interesting how... No, hold on. These are the coaster names. I mentioned the coaster, like the area ride name sort of thing. These are the names for the individual coasters again. Thank you for those. But it is interesting how the original ride, I think, just had one queue and then a split off, whereas this one, obviously I've had to put it as two queues because we can't do that in Planet Coaster unless you just had it as like a path, but then the guests can't queue down the path, so that's how this kind of works. There's like loads of little random theming bits in the queue as well, and what I love about this queue is like it goes upwards, so you get that elevated view of the ride area and the coaster. It's so cool. And then there's this like high up part of the queue up as well that's above the maintenance area. Nice kind of theming bits in this to keep it interesting, but most of the time you'll be looking out the window at the coaster. I love that. There's a couple of sun shading covers in the queue as well. I might go and add a few more of those. Just nice realism touch, because that's how parks, or at least I'll say how parks do it, how I hope they do it, because you don't want to be stood in lots of like baking hot heat for a while. But this is the main station building. I'm so happy with this. It turned out like the perfect busy, messy industrial warehouse that I was kind of hoping for. There was a couple more details I want to add, but it just kind of really complements the theme I was going for. See the whole park from up here. It really complements the whole theme I was going for. Really happy with it. Like I said, there's a couple more bits I want to add, but there's a lot of beams. I think that's probably why I like it so much, because there's beams everywhere. But yeah, I'm liking it. I'll stay quiet for this little bit as well, so you can hear the actual dispatch of the coaster, because it makes some nice noises. They have the same hair. It's quite cool. I'm liking all the noise and immersion and stuff in here, but I think it's time for us to take a ride now. We'll ride the red side first, then the blue. We'll do it in track view and then chase view, I think, so we don't get the people out of the way. And there you go, you have just conquered Cop Car Chase, Lethal Weapon Pursuit, whatever this ride's actually called in this part, because I'm recording this before the name's been chosen. But yeah, very, very happy with this. And I like this whole, like, it's almost like a pre-show, but not really, but this section was purely put in because the original coaster had an onload and offload. So this section would have been like a much longer station that we can't have onload and offload in Planet Coaster, so I thought I'd make kind of a feature out of it where you go through this like shed first and then like wait for the launch section at the end before you connect with the lift. I thought that was a pretty cool idea, and I love the view that you get from here as well. Like, you wouldn't normally see this view quite a lot unless you're on the ride, but I love how close that gets as well. Like, it was actually too close for me to put a wall, which is why there's a net in there. But yeah, I just, there's so many cool and unique views of this ride that I'm like only just getting now because the look around in Tejicam is quite cool. Yeah, so this the red side exits down there like you saw already, but the blue side has to go all the way, once you've picked up your loose articles, oh, I'm through the wall, has to go all the way underneath the station just because of how the ride is placed in this area of the park. But I'm quite happy with that, and then you get a nice view as you come out there as well. And I love supports in paths, I think that's so cool. There's something, I don't know, a lot more grounding about the scale of a roller coaster when you're stood right next to one of the supports. And like in the Smiler Queue, you can put your hand on one of the supports and feel the force of the ride as it like shakes these massive supports. But this area is what I will be tackling next episode. Not so much, I don't know whether I'll do the hotel or not, or whether that'll come at a later date, but kind of completing this area to see how it spills out onto here. Obviously I need to put some sort of a screening in between this big noisy ride and the hotel, because even if you like in the park during the day, which will be quite noisy, but like say if we do like late night events, you wouldn't want this, like all the noise spilling over towards the hotel, so I need to kind of solve that. Obviously these two will get included in next episode as to kind of finish off this area of Flavor Fizz and Pizza Factory, whatever they're called. Those will probably get renamed, along with this Gerstlauer Skyfly. That will be all done in next episode to kind of link this whole industrial area to this really big, I was going to say Western Village, but it's more like a small city that we're making. Yeah, and then we'll gradually be getting closer to the end of this park series, hopefully before Planet Coaster 2 releases. But I just love looking at this coaster from like an aerial view as well. It really helps you appreciate the scale of this ride. Like, I would have absolutely loved to ride the original movie about Germany. It's like such a fascinating coaster, and I'm so glad that I've like managed to recreate it as well. And people have been commenting about recreations for me in general, so I thought I'd address it. I don't like doing recreations, I'll put it quite bluntly, because the coaster already exists and other people have done recreations of it. Like when people say, oh, do you want to do a recreation of Zadra and Tamed, Steel Vengeance, Maverick or something, these have already been done kind of to death at this point, I think, and people have gone and done it way more better and accurate than I probably ever could. So with this one, I couldn't find any recreations of it, which is why I wanted to do it firstly. It's got such an interesting history and the coaster doesn't exist anymore, so I thought I'm not just recreating it, I'm improving it, giving it a new lease of life, but more importantly bringing attention to it, because up until I found out about this coaster's existence, I hadn't found out about it. I knew nothing about it, and it's kind of sad because this coaster had a pretty early ending to it, and I kind of wanted to give it that little bit of a spotlight for a bit so people know more about it, which I thought was quite a cool idea. So yeah, that's sort of what I wanted to say about that. Hopefully it doesn't seem too ranty, but that's kind of my opinion and stance on recreations. This is how I would like to do them, not just copying it and doing exactly what it's like in real life, because for me, I'm not creating something new at that point, I'm just making something that already exists, and I would prefer to kind of improve upon that and make something brand new, almost, like this. But the rest of this area, like I said, will get completed fully next episode. It's going to feel so much more immersive and alive with the Gerstlauer Skyfly and everything, really bringing this area to life, and it hopefully connecting it back to the main street as well, at the main plaza, that Western Village part, the entrance. I'm just saying a lot of words. I'm gonna go. This is what happens when we get too far in. We just ramble. I've built all of this so far, and we've got all of that to go. So I best get building. Thank you so much for watching. The support on this series has been insane. I'm so appreciative of it. Thank you for being here. Have a great rest of your day. Goodbye.